Hello and welcome back to our gardens. It is a beautiful day here in southern Vermont. We've got a nice breeze, the birds are chirping, the chipmunks are scurrying. It just feels magical, but we have a lot to do. So in today's episode, we'll plant up some tomatoes and visit the inspirational Clear Brook Farm.
This is our 30th year anniversary. You know, I still love looking down a line of stuff that's either transplanted, but especially if we direct seed a crop and seeing it breaking through the soil.
But first, I'm gonna refresh my window boxes. Just navigating my way through the back of our borders here. Okay, so these are our window boxes. So we have 4 of them along the front of the cottage. They're painted in a color called cottage white, which I find quite charming. And last winter, a friend of ours let us cut down our Christmas tree from her property. And so we took all of the foliage that was at the base of that tree, along with foliage that we had from our own property, and put it in our window boxes. And it was so lovely for the winter time. We also filled it with some of the red twigs from our ivory halo red twig dogwoods here. And that was just wonderful. I was so grateful we did that this past year. And it was really nice because it was like, you know, having free greenery the whole season. But in the last few weeks, it started to look rough. It's taken on an orange tinge and it just needs to be taken out. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm so excited to refresh these. So we're gonna be taking everything out, popping it in. I have an old recycled plant pot here. And then I'm going to fill it up with the soil that we have there and plant these up. So let's go ahead and get started. Our clematis right here is finally all budded up. It's been here for a couple of years and I think we've maybe gotten 1 flower and now we have, I don't know, about 20 buds. So that'll be really, really nice. So I'll show you that as the season progresses. We're gonna have to wipe down these windows. We'll do that after we have it all set up. Whoop, gotta avoid the astilbes back here. Okay, so I am going to be putting 3 different plants in these window boxes. And I'm gonna just be repeating these 3 all throughout because I did 2 different versions last year. I planted this one up the same as the opposite, and then the 2 in the center the same. So there were 2 different varieties, or 2 different sort of arrangements, and they were mirrored. And I liked that look a lot, but unfortunately, 2 of those died and just really didn't perform well. I don't think we got enough sun for those particular plants. So this year, we're gonna stick with what worked last year and just repeat it. And I think it'll kind of create some harmony in the back of the border, which, because we have a cottage border, it can look a little higgledy-piggledy. So we want something that adds a little bit of structure. And we're using similar plants, but not the exact same ones. We're using 2 begonias, and these ones are big white green leaf. Last year we used the Surefire white begonias, and we absolutely loved them. The little kind of cupped or conical leaves were really beautiful, and they housed little frogs, which was so fun to look outside of the window and just see these little frogs taking a snooze in our plants. I absolutely loved that. So let me give you some stats on this. So this is a sun to part sun, which I think should do pretty well here. And we're supposed to plant them 12 inches apart. That's perfect. It grows 24 to 30 inches tall. So this is really going to create a nice pillar here outside of our windows and invite some beautiful color and some little tiny wildlife. So we're gonna plant 2 of those on either side, giving them the space that they need, and then 1 in the center. And when you plant up at the beginning of the season, sometimes it feels very scant. Feels like you have a lot of soil and not that much plant. But these, you just have to sort of trust and have faith because these will take up this room, they'll grow, you know, that 24, it's like 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet that these are gonna get, and it's gonna be magnificent. So this one in the center here is the Main Street Portage Avenue coleus. This is a really gorgeous kind of frilly edged coleus. It's a deep burgundy with a chartreuse outline, and it's just a stunner. And I think that one in the center is going to provide some nice interest, and it's going to play off of the colors of our begonias here. So let me give you the stats on this. This is, again, Main Street, Portage Avenue. And this is a part shade, 10 to 16 inches tall and 9 to 12 inches wide. So I think those will sit quite harmoniously together. But, you know, gardening is all an experiment, right? So we'll just see. So we actually got these plants from our local farm stand and nursery. They are a grower retailer, and they are about some of the nicest people we've ever met. So I want to take you over there, and I'll finish planting these. When you get back, I'll be able to show you the finished version of this first planter.
My name is Andrew Knafel, and I'm the owner of Clear Brook Farm in Shaftsbury. So this is our 30th season selling plants and produce, and we started our first season was 1995. We started with one greenhouse and a table by the side of the road under the maple tree out front, and slowly we renovated the old barn that was on the property and slowly built up more greenhouses, started farming more acreage of land. We have now fields that we lease and own, and we've gone from a crew of myself and one person to around 25 to 30 people, full and part-time during the season, and 5 or 6 people, 8 people for a longer period of the year, close to 8 to 10 months, or even year-round. We have some people. So, and that's what we do. Yeah, that's what we've been doing. So our farm, we grow, we're a certified organic produce farm. We also grow all our vegetable starts. For people's gardens, we grow a lot of bedding plants, both ornamental, as you can see here, and also edible plants. We grow lots of tomatoes and peppers and greens and brassica, like broccoli and cauliflower, all those things for people's gardens. And then we also grow about 30 acres of vegetables every year, with an acre and a half of strawberries and an acre and a half of blueberries, and that will be for pick your own blueberries. We also do pick your own strawberries, and we sell everything through our farm stand. Mostly we have a couple community supported agriculture programs that we run, and we also sell to 1 or 2 restaurants, and we also participate in some food assistance programs for seniors who are living in senior housing facilities. And so NOFA, the Northeast Organic Farmers Association of Vermont, sort of coordinates that. And there's maybe about 125 seniors in these various senior housing units. And each person every week gets a small vegetable share. We're also doing this year, there's some immigrant population in Manchester that is part of an English as a second language class that they take at the library. The Vermont Food Bank is organized to buy a CSA share for these families that we'll be providing at their English language class, just to give them easier access to food, because sometimes it's hard for people who don't speak English to navigate the food cupboard system. And so we're bringing them fresh produce. Mostly it's a Haitian, sort of a lot of folks from Haiti and some Latin American countries. And so we're also trying to cater that CSA and vegetable program to their desires and what they're used to, and maybe a few things they're not used to. We're really excited about that. I think there's 27 families that we'll be providing through the Vermont Food Bank and the community cupboard in Manchester. They're collaborating to do this. So I'm really excited about it, actually, so that'll be great. Community supported agriculture is a program where people pre-buy their share of produce for the season. And by doing that, they're supporting the farm. Oftentimes it's in the spring for a summer share, so they'll get their food through the summer. And it helps the farmers, because in spring, a lot of times, especially in Vermont, there's not a lot of cash flow, but that's when there's a lot of cash flow, but the cash flow is going out. And we need a little bit to come in before we open our farm stand and things. So people pre-buy their share. we give them a little bonus in value, plus they get free pick your own strawberries of a certain amount depending upon what size share they decide to buy. But then we also do a community supported agriculture program in the fall. We can plan how much food we need to grow through the fall and into the winter, and it helps keep my crew going through the winter as well. It's extended our season. Now we sell produce after our farm stand closes on Columbus Day weekend. We keep selling produce through Christmas, and then we have another CSA program in January and February, so people can get produce through February. I grew up in New York, and I started working at Walker Farm, which is an amazing farm, similar to us, but just bigger and even more, diverse in what they grow. And it's an amazing place for Jack and Karen Mannix back in the 1980s. And they encouraged me to maybe start my own farm. So I looked around in Bennington and ended up here. And I thought I knew something. And then I started farming for myself, and I realized I didn't know a thing. And I really started to learn then. The challenges we face in Vermont growing vegetables, I'm sure everyone's going to say it, it's the weather. And it's true. There's a lot of weather issues that are not as predictable as they used to be. Some of what we've been noticing is that our frosts are later in the fall, so we can actually grow a longer season. And the last frost is earlier in the spring, so it's safer to put plants out earlier. But what we did find last year, for example, almost on this day, May 18th last year, we had a hard freeze that I'm sure everybody in Vermont is familiar with. And that kind of freeze never had happened so that would have been our 29th year. We've had frost, we used to have frost into June, but we never had a freeze like that. I mean, I sort of think about the challenges as opportunities too, to change how we do things and to refine what we do and really pay attention so that we're able to be resilient, be flexible. So I cultivate that in myself, to be flexible. Things just happen farming that you couldn't imagine, and you just got to go with it and figure out how best to move forward after difficult things happen. It's kind of like life, I guess. But yeah, I'd say the biggest advice I'd offer for gardeners is to be brave and not worry about things being perfect. They're plants, they want to grow. And sometimes, even with us, I've been doing it for 30 years and 7 years for someone else before that. I've been growing for a long time. And some years, things that have always been good are a total failure. And some things that I struggle with will have a great year. And so I think that, it's not about perfection. It's about enjoying being outside. And I still love looking down a line of stuff that's either transplanted, but especially if we direct seed a crop and seeing it breaking through the soil and growing. It's a lovely way to spend time. And like I said, you just don't, to be free of any expectations, and you'll be happy, This is our 30th year anniversary. We're thinking about having a party and getting a band, and we've done that in previous years. But if we do something, it'll be in August. And if nothing else, I think taking a moment and just appreciating, what we've done and where we've come from. The thing that I think I'm most proud about, that means the most to me, there's two things. One is that I have a great crew, and the folks who've been working for me, some have been working over 20 years. People's dedication to working here and doing a good job means the most to me. And I really, we could not be where we are without everyone who's participated. And my employees have great ideas, and they care a lot about working here, and that means so much. And also, we're really grateful for our customers and the folks there's people here who've been coming for 30 years. There's just this multiple generations of folks in the community who've supported us. And I'm really, that's super, heartwarming, and gives it meaning beyond just growing and beyond it just being a business. It helps me get out the door every day. And so I'm really grateful for, the whole community support, whether from employees to customers, and that's what makes it rewarding.
Isn't it nice to see someone who's just as passionate about plants as you are? I really love that nursery and garden center and farm stand. It's a really special place, and I really love going there. So we are all done with the window boxes. It feels so great. So basically, we've tucked these in nice and snug, making sure the root balls are totally covered and there's no sort of holes in the soil, just making sure they're tucked in like little kids for bed. And it's not time for them to sleep, it's time for them to wake up and grow, because they're gonna get big and beautiful, and these are gonna get floriferous, like white fluffy clouds here. So I'm just watering these in, and while I do that, I'm just gonna kind of clean off the sides of our window boxes and a little bit of the window frame itself. Then we're gonna head over to our vegetable patch because I have some tomatoes that I've hardened off and they're ready to go in the ground. Okay, so here we are in the vegetable patch. I love it back here. I just find it to be such a peaceful place for me. So in these beds this year, we decided to plant up tons of tulips. So we did a bunch of different varieties, but they were basically red, purple, orange, and purple and pink blend. And that was the pride mix. The reds came up first and they were so tall and just vibrant and beautiful. But we could see all of this beautiful color here in the vegetable patch from the house, and it just made me so happy during April. So that was really lovely. But now the beautiful red tulips have gone over and it's time for us to plant our tomatoes. Now, last year we planted up these beds, just 2 of them instead of 8 of them. But we took out each of the tulips, and the ones that looked really good and strong and healthy. We pulled them up, we put them in some recycled plant pots with a little bit of leaf mold and a little bit of soil. And then we let them die back in the sun, photosynthesize, and send all that energy into the bulbs. And then last autumn, we planted those on the hillside. And they performed beautifully. Every single one of them came up. So that blend that we put on the hill was the pink and purple pride mix, which is the blend that we had in these 2 outer beds here. Exquisite, beautiful combination, very happy colors for that early spring garden. And I was so glad that that experiment worked. So we're gonna do it again this year. We are going to pull out all of the tulips, prep the bed, put them in a recycled plant pot right here behind me. And then we're gonna fill it up with some soil. There's some leaf mold in there, but we'll just top it off. Keep it well watered until they all die back, and then we'll store them in our garage. Someplace cool. Yeah, so hopefully that works again, because it'd be so much fun to just recycle these bulbs, because, you know, they're not free. Tulips aren't free, and this way they can be. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to this, then we'll prep the bed, we'll put some compost in it, and then we'll plant up our beautiful sun gold cherry tomatoes that I started in April. Look at that. Oh, it's moldy. Probably won't save that one. So you want to make sure that you're not storing mold. That's not a great thing. Let's see. Ooh, oh no, that's not a snail. Okay, so about half of the bulbs were salvageable, which is, you know, those aren't bad odds. So tulips don't do a great job of naturalizing, at least here for us. Some of the best varieties have been, there's a few double mixes. So we have an Angelique and a Blue Diamond that are both doubles. The Angelique is a creamy white and a pink. And then the Blue Diamond is a really beautiful, almost iridescent purple with a blue diamond right up the center of the petals. It's gorgeous. And then the parrot tulips tend to come back fairly well for us. But as a rule, tulips don't come back super easily. So one way to sort of combat that is by digging them up and storing them and then planting them up the same way that you would if you bought them from your local garden center or nursery in the autumn. But a way to sort of help this process along and to help them really send their energy to the bulb instead of producing seeds, because that's the two places that the energy can go. The leaves take in the energy from the sun, and they can either put that energy in the bulb or they can use it to produce the seeds. But we don't want the seeds to be produced, so we're just snapping off the tops of the tulips. This is one of my favorite jobs. It is so satisfying. You just sort of take your thumb and put it right at the little joint where the stem meets the seed pod, and then you kind of just pop it off. Comes off really easily. And they are just, yeah, a very fun thing to do. So we're just gonna pop all of these off, top it up with soil, prep this bed, and then we're gonna plant our tomatoes. So this is some of our compost. It's so beautiful. My partner really worked hard on it this past year, and it is wonderful and lush and gorgeous and crumbly and full of nutrients, most importantly. So this is a perfect combination. This is a perfect soil for tomatoes because they are heavy feeders. And here we have our Sun Gold tomatoes. Ooh, they're a little leggy, that I started from seed back at the beginning of April. I think I started it exactly on April Fool's Day. Sun Gold is my favorite cherry tomato. You know, I grew a lot of different tomatoes, and with such a short growing season here, it really was amazing to see that the Sun Golds just performed beautifully. They were the first to flower, they were the first to start bearing fruit, and it was just delicious. The flavor on Sun Golds is incredible. I know I spoke about them last year, but they are amazing. And the color of them is that beautiful, vibrant orange. They're little tiny tomato, they're just gorgeous. So I've decided, instead of planting tons of different types of tomatoes and different beds, I'm just gonna fill 2 beds with Sun Golds. I'm just going for it. When you find out what you like and you know what works well in your area, just do that. So we're gonna go ahead and start making some holes. And then pop out our little seedlings. These really need to be potted out, so I'm glad we're doing this now. Decent root system on that, but we're definitely gonna bury these. Ooh. The fibers on the leaves get stuck together as well. So we're gonna bury this pretty deep, take off any of the lower leaves, snap those off pretty easily, and then just bury it pretty deep, because along here, the side of the stem, they will actually send out roots if that makes contact with the soil. So if you want to anchor your plants in, or if you have a really leggy plant, or if you just want to make sure that your plant is nice and solid, then digging it in is a really good option. Now, before we cover it over, we're gonna take some twine and bury it at the bottom of the root ball, because we're gonna be making a structure in the next episode, and we're gonna tie this onto that and weave our tomato up. So we did a similar method last year, and it worked beautifully. So we're gonna do the same thing. So just take a little bit of twine, tuck it underneath the root ball. It'll grow around that, and that won't be a problem. And then fill it in with the soil. And then we'll just have to estimate how long this is going to be, since the structure isn't in place yet. And then we'll just cut that off. And then firm it in. And there we go. Our beautiful Sun Gold, ready to grow and bear fruit and have a wonderful summer. So let me get the rest of this bed planted. The black flies got so bad I had to grab a punk, so hopefully that helps as we finish up our projects today. So there we go, our first tomato bed planted. So now that we have planted up our tomato bed, or at least one of our tomato beds, I think that makes 9 of our 16 beds here in the vegetable patch that we have planted, which feels really, really great. This one here is our herb bed. I do think it gets enough sun to be able to grow these herbs, which is fantastic. So here in the back, we have parsley, and we have a curly parsley and then a flat Italian. And we let our parsley go to seed, so it's sort of like a perennial, because we have that 2-year cycle, but then on top of that, it's dropping seeds, which are then starting that cycle over again, so that's fantastic. And in the rest of the bed, we have 2 oreganos, we have some summer savory, some sage, and some echinacea, so we can harvest the petals for teas and things like that. So we got all these little beauties from the Garden Club of Manchester, and they're looking so happy in the ground. Another thing that's looking super happy right now is our forget-me-nots. So I think we're gonna divide some of those from around the property, and we're gonna plant them in the border. So on our property, we have so many forget-me-nots. They're just everywhere, and they're so glorious. Just this swathes of misty blue and white all over the property. We've even had little mixes of the two. So I found one very rare pink forget-me-not, which I'm really excited about. But so what I like to do is around this time of year, every season, I like to just go around and kind of move some of the forget-me-nots along the property into our porch bed. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now with my trowel, just kind of dig them up, try and get as many roots as possible, and then we'll transplant them. It's a great way of getting some free plants and really bulking out this beautiful flower that comes out this time of year. It's like a frosty mist underneath all of the spring bulbs. Okay, I think that's enough. So I'm gonna go over there and plant these up, and we're losing the lights. I think that's all we have time for on this day of gardening. Thank you so much for joining me. It was so lovely being here with you, and I'll see you again very soon, next time on Our Gardens.